All right, ladies and gentlemen, the Pittsburgh Steelers win their second preseason game as they head out of Jacksonville with a victory 16-15 in what was a little bit of a more disappointing showing from this team, specifically the offense, compared to last week where we saw each quarterback throw a touchdown pass. Today we only saw two of those guys score touchdowns, and that was the second and third stringer in that order. I guess we got to start with the offense, and the title of this video is The Offensive Line is Still an Issue.
And I think that is a great place to put, the focus here.
Yeah.
Offensive line was atrocious.
It was a mess. And Kenny and Mason both threw touchdowns. Mitch did not, even though he didn't really have the opportunity to do anything.
No, I think his showcase tonight was run for my life.
Yeah. Which he showed good ability at that.
Very good ability. We saw a lot of scrambling that shows us that he can escape the pocket if needed. But we've seen a little too much of that.
Too much of it. Way too much than, I think we'd like to see.
More than we would like to admit, honestly. Let's get into the stats a little bit as we talk about the quarterback position. Mason Rudolph led us down to a game-winning touchdown drive within, actually it was after 2 minutes, after Justin Lane made a great interception as the Jags were going down the field, which gave the Steelers offense life and a good field position for Mason to throw that touchdown.
Honestly, that could be considered, too, the turning point.
Yep.
It really was.
Very similar to last week when Mark Robinson did very similar and gave Pickett time to throw that game winner.
Yep.
Mason did something similar today. He threw 17 of 21 for 127 and a game-winning touchdown to, I believe it was Tyler Snead, 84, not Antonio Brown. So Mason worked as the number 3 today, as Kenny was promoted a little bit to the number 2 as he was working with the second team, and a little bit of the starters.
Yeah, Mason did basically the entire second half of this game.
Yeah, because Kenny only played half of the second quarter. When we heard that he was going to get an elevator role and he was going to see more varsity action, we thought a little bit more time. That was not the case. Last week he saw the entire second half. Today he only saw half of the second quarter. But I guess when Tomlin meant by more varsity action, he meant more time with the starters, which he pretty much played with the entire starting offense outside of Najee, obviously. But when he came in and that drive he did towards the end of the first half that gave the Steelers the first half lead at 7-6, he was cooking, man. I must say, the offensive line didn't do him favors early on. There was actually one drive he had where it was 3 straight penalties from the offensive line.
Yeah, and that was another theme tonight, offensive line-wise.
Yeah.
Lots of penalties. A lot of guys just not working together, in my opinion. I mean, Green, too, I think that's another person we should really point out.
Mm-hmm.
Another game where he just looked absolutely awful.
He did. He got pushed back more times than I'd like to see. He actually got pancaked when he's supposed to be doing the pancaking, which led to some of Mitch's rushing yards today.
Yeah, it's just not a good showing from Green, who, and I said this during our live stream here, if you have a bad center, you have a bad guard.
Yep.
Yeah,
and that saying is not exclusive to me, by the way. That's something I heard from somebody else. I wish I remembered to give credit.
Right.
But this is true. This is a man that's trying to turn his career around after an awful rookie season as our starting center last year.
And I'm not seeing no improvement from him.
That's
zero.
And same thing with Kevin Dotson when he came in. He also got beat. Dan Moore got beat a couple times.
Yep.
James Daniels has been a huge disappointment thus far. Maybe he's just getting used to the new team and the offensive line overall. But this entire offensive line has not been cooking. As a matter of fact, I'd say our best offensive lineman is, ironically, our center.
Mason Cole.
Yeah, and it's been quiet, too. And that's what you want from an offensive lineman. I mean, yeah, you want the pancakes, but I'll take quiet. Quiet's better than getting pancaked.
Yes.
Listen, as long as you can block a freaking defensive lineman.
Right.
Give your quarterback some time. Open up a lane for your running back.
Right, which they ultimately did, because Pickett only got 8 drives. Number 8 only got 8 snaps, excuse me. Number 8 only got 8 snaps, which he made the most of them. He threw first down to Deontay, 2 straight first downs to Muth, a touchdown to Deontay that was eventually taken back due to holding on Dan Moore. But the next play, he threw a touchdown pass to Benny Snell. So he made the most out of his 8 snaps and went 6 or 7 for 76 yards and a touchdown. So for him to get us down the field after, getting the ball that second time and making the most of it,
absolutely.
I must say, in limited time, he was arguably the best-looking quarterback. And honestly, when you look at from last week to this week, the most consistent.
Yeah, and also, another thing I noticed too with Kenny is like some of those balls that came out were just they zipped, man. They had everything you want to see in that realm. It just looked very clean.
Yeah, very impressed with what we saw from the first round rookie Kenny Pickett, the long-term solution here. I don't know where this puts him in terms of a depth chart or a starter value.
I think it's going to come down to the wire, week 3, man. I really do.
Very well could.
I think that battle really comes down to week 3. I still feel like, Mitch is going to be the guy. I can't imagine why the Steelers would go out of their way to bring him in if he wasn't going to be the starter.
Right.
But it may not be a situation like some people think. Mitch might not be the starting quarterback the entire season.
No.
There's a lot of new stuff going on with the Steelers this year, and it is exciting. But one thing that is still the same is we have Mike Tomlin as our coach. And if there's anything you know about Mike Tomlin when it comes to rookies, no matter the position, it really comes down to mid-season. Who's the guy that's going to be best for this team? And that's where we could see a change.
Absolutely. Now, let me ask you a question. Next week, do we have a similar quarterback pattern? Does Mason go back?
I think they switch it up again.
Okay.
I do. How that goes, though, I don't know.
Would you imagine them potentially wanting Pickett to have a bigger role with the first team and maybe start next week?
What they like me projecting what they want is different than what I want. I would love to see Pickett be the starter. I mean, because that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
When you see like they're switching up every week here, so week 3 kind of sounds like it could literally be the same. It could be, but I guess we'll have to wait and see.
We will have to wait and see. In terms of a rushing value, there wasn't much to see. There was nothing much to watch. Benny Snell got to play. He actually started running back as Najee is still not playing the preseason. He might play some next week, but Snell, didn't really do much in the running game aspect. Granted, the offensive line didn't help nobody. Even when Jalen Warren came in or Anthony McFarland, who they both, burst onto the scene last week, but didn't really do much this week. I mean, Warren's still
at least not in the rushing department, but Warren, from the receiving aspect, definitely impressive, especially compared to Benny Snell, who, in my opinion, was the focus tonight.
Yeah.
As far as running backs go, he was supposed to be the guy that we were evaluating, or at least the Steelers were evaluating. Warren definitely wins tonight as far as running back core.
Yes, as he went 3 catches for 24 yards, still showing those hands. But obviously, I don't want to take away Snell's good play there on the touchdown from Pickett. So good stuff there. It'll be interesting to see what they do at the running back 2 role. I mean, I think we still want to support Jalen Warren getting that time and getting that.
I think it's his spot to lose.
I agree. So, in terms of receiving aspect, our leading receiver was Tyler Vaughns, who got the game winner last week from Pickett, and here he is making plays again. He actually got 2 great consecutive plays on Mason's game-winning drive, and is showing capabilities of. I don't want to exactly just cut him out for a roster spot, but more so a practice squad.
Right. So I think he's making his case in regards to this very stacked receiver core.
Yeah.
I don't feel comfortable letting him go, if I'm being quite honest.
Yeah.
He's shown a lot of stuff that you want to see, and this might be something no one else in our industry, as far as YouTubers or just content creators, I don't think anyone else is going to really point this out with him. He was quiet. Like, he made his catches, he made his impact, but he didn't really show off. He didn't really show any expressions. He seemed very focused.
Yep. Yeah.
And that's something you don't really see from the receiver core. It's refreshing.
And when I see this guy, when he has the football in his hands, he uses his size.
Right.
6'2", 190, but he uses it to his advantage, and that creates a lot of yak ability. Saw it last week, saw it this week, loving what we're seeing from Tyler Vaughns as he's continuing his, trying to make a name for himself in camp. Defensively, let's get into the defense a little bit since the offensive talk is enough said there. The offensive line definitely needs to do better. It's still a concern, but maybe, throughout time it just progresses. That's ideal. That's what you would hope.
Yeah, it's one of those things that we've seen in the past where a season goes and progresses and the offensive line does the same thing and they improve on what it is that they need to improve on. It could also go the opposite way, but none of us can predict that. We're not genies, and we're just going to have to wait and see what happens.
Could the same thing be said for the linebacker position? That was my biggest.
It could be. It's not exclusive to a specific position. Linebacker could be another one of those areas. Maybe Bush does. Maybe Bush sees my rant and takes that to heart and applies it to himself and goes out there and tries harder.
Right.
I mean, he could potentially do that. It's just we're not seeing that right now, and his attitude needs to be fixed.
It does. But Spillane was our leading tackler with 8 tackles. He even looked good in the
Another quiet game.
He did. But I would say actually all the linebackers looked better this week.
Much better compared to last week, for sure.
Yeah. My biggest concern from the defense last week was the linebacker position. All linebackers look good, including Bush. Miles Jack obviously had a great game. He was everywhere for that starting defense. So was DeMonte Casey. We got to see Larry Ogunjobi and Tyson Alualu with their first bit of action together, and they both seen their presence felt already, so that's good. And Cam wasn't playing today due to injury. I don't know if he'll play next week, but to see these guys already paired together, guys like Jack, Ogunjobi, Alualu, these guys, these new additions and their returns and their presence is already felt in the rushing attack.
Yes, it is.
So that's good to see. That's one of the biggest takeaways from the defense. Outside of that, I mean, certain guys stepped up when they needed to. I mean, T.J. Watt, I believe, got our only sack. No, T.J. Watt got our first sack of the game, and DeMarvin Leal, the rookie, I believe, got the other sack of the game,
yes,
which
did.
was late towards the game. So, and Justin Lane made that great interception late into the second half, which gave Mason time to get that game winner. So, kudos to those guys there. Other than that, I mean, you know, not much that was incredibly consistent from last week, or not much from last week that was improved on. The offensive line still a concern. I love what we saw from Tyler Vaughns and even Kenny Pickett, and even I'll even throw in Mason Rudolph on that game winner. But
don't forget T.J. Watt's sack.
Yeah.
I mean, there was some plays on defense that were a little impressive. So,
yeah.
You know, it's one of those things where not overly jumping off of the page, but there was a few plays sprinkled in throughout this game that you kind of look at and you go, okay.
Yeah.
I'd like to see how that transitions to the regular season.
Yeah. And we
a lot to work on, though, on both sides of the ball.
A lot of work on. You know, that's why we have one more preseason game next week.
Yep.
And we saw some guys progress from last week to this week, and hopefully we see that next week.
Right.
And if I had to make a, assumption as far as, like, which position is still a question mark, believe it or not, for me, it's quarterback.
Really?
I mean, all 3 guys, including Mason, who, as we saw there, closed out this game, it's really hard to gauge, like, which direction you go, because all 3 are performing in their own ways. Even though Mitch tonight didn't really get a chance to showcase himself because of the offensive line troubles, it is tough.
Yeah.
Whereas running back, on the other hand, you go back to last week, that was a position that was kind of like in the same realm.
Yeah.
I feel real comfortable saying Warren. I really do.
Yeah.
Mainly because of what he can do in the back, when he can get outside the backfield and he's out there playing receiver.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's impressive to me. And he's showing a lot of heart. And he runs tough.
I love to see it, man.
That's a Steeler running back, man.
You're absolutely right.
I mean, especially since he is the cousin of former Steelers running back Willie Parker.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So,
Who was one of my favorites.
Oh, yeah. Fast Willie, man.
one more thing before we get out of here is one thing that we definitely saw this game, which I'm sure we'll see a little bit more next week, because I'm anticipating certain starters to play next week, maybe Cam, maybe Najee, is that for the most part, the majority of it, we saw almost every starter play. We got Mink out there. We saw TJ. I don't know if Alex Highsmith was playing. I didn't think I saw him out there. But we saw some of these guys play together for the first time on the field. And in some ways, I liked what I saw. The offensive line didn't help Mitch whatsoever. We'll see what time he gets next week, and hopefully we see more of him as a quarterback rather than running for his life. But from the defense, I liked what we saw from the new additions and getting Watt in there. And like I said, Ogunjobi and Alualu and Jack. I mean, that was good to see. And even Edmonds.
Mm-hmm.
I got to give a shout out to Edmonds.
Yes,
Yeah.
Terrell Edmonds. Came up big, especially in the running game.
And you know what's crazy is, like, there's probably other guys that we're forgetting right now because it's so fresh off of the game. There was other guys that deserve some credit tonight, too, as well. So
Yeah. Absolutely. But maybe we get more of that next week. We'll see what Tomlin says and who he projects as a starter. It could be very similar to this week. It could be Pickett getting the start next week. If it's up to us, I think we all agree Pickett should get the start. But we shall see more. We'll see what Tomlin says this upcoming week. And let us know your guys' thoughts down below. Let us know how you guys feel about this team and the O-line and everything surrounding. And we'll see you in the next one.
Like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you later.
Peace!